Good morning, everybody. I think it's Wednesday. I hope it's Wednesday. Hope you slept well. I know a few of you had messaged to say that you'd been struggling to sing. Struggling to sleep. Whenever I clicked on the FaceTime Live this morning, it keeps coming up and it says tap to pick a song. So, without wanting to offend my neighbours and get chucked out of the apartment block, I'm not going to choose a song. So anyway, welcome to Emma, and welcome to whoever else wants to join us this morning. It's beautiful here in Geneva. The sky is a beautiful blue, and the birds have been singing since early doors. And as you can see, my hair just has a mind of its own this morning. I seem to have a little bit of grey coming through here, which I just thought was really funny. I just looked in the mirror when I put my lippy on. So yeah, I hope that you've had a good sleep. I hope you feel refreshed, and I hope you're feeling fine. So I was thinking about this morning's inspiration, and I was wondering, obviously, to help you guys as much as possible through these very weird and very peculiar times that have stopped the whole world in its tracks. I thought what we would do, obviously, I'm open to any suggestions you might have, is to look at the heart centre. Basically, obviously, many of the people that struggle in some way, shape or form. Maybe you do, with forgiveness, self-love, self-esteem. And the thing is, very often we kind of get stuck in our story. He did this, she did that, and when we get stuck in the story, it can become what I call kind of drama karma. And of course, everything was created by the word. So when we get stuck in our drama karma, when we get stuck in our story, eventually we start to believe it ourselves. I have a very, very, very dear friend, and his wife left him, and at the same time various different things in his life went kind of belly up. And he's very aware of law of attraction. I do understand people can be in a bad place. And as much as I love him, and I will always love him because he's such a very, very dear friend, one of the things I said to him was, the more I listen to you just going over and over the same thing, I'm actually making it worse, because I keep listening to you. And unless, we come up with something constructive to get you out of this negative place, I'm actually not helping you. And sometimes we do get involved in the drama karma, we do get involved in the gossip, and we have to decide, is it serving us? I know when I was working in the civil service all those many years ago, the gossip that went around the office at the time, I only got involved in a very small amount of that, because even then I knew it wasn't healthy. But nonetheless, none of us like to be gossiped about, and none of us really should perhaps get embroiled in gossiping. Now, none of us are perfect. I'm not saying that I'm whiter than white. But what I'm saying is that everything comes down to quantum physics and the law of attraction. And of course, our thoughts become our words become what we start to believe, and then eventually that all becomes our habits and the way we live our lives. So if we can work on the heart center and work on forgiveness, if we can work on some wisdom, and if we can work on just having a look at that story and have a look at the truth behind it, is it 20 years old, is it 30 years old, is it 50 years old, And the truth is it serving you? Every one of us is a work in progress. And, the mind will go over and over and over the pain that we've experienced, because it's normal to us. So, studies show that when somebody is abused, a husband or wife, because, there are wife beaters out there are husband beaters too. they will often go back to that situation of negativity because it's familiar to them. It doesn't make it right, but they will go back to what they know because pain is familiar. So when we learn forgiveness and when we learn that we do deserve to be happy, which is a big thing, then, we're all striving for happiness. And yet when it seems to be that we're on the precipice of that, we cause a self-destruct button. I know I've done it many, many, many times in my life, pushing people away from me for different reasons. I know when I wrote The Goldfish That Jumped, and it was in W.H. Smith's and Waterstones within 6 weeks, I was just amazed. I remember as I walked past Waterstones, and I did actually, I fell off the curb into the road. Luckily there was nothing there. But, I was just self-sabotaging, and W.H. Smith rung and said, the book can be national. You only need to sell another 6 copies in the next 6 weeks and it'll go national. And I was terrified. I was terrified of the success. I was terrified that my time wouldn't be my own, that I'd be doing book signings all the time. And then the fear just ran absolutely amok. And then I was frightened that my granddaughters would get abducted and somebody would be blackmailing me thinking I was a multimillionaire, and absolutely ridiculous thoughts. And of course, Reiki and positive healing is sending a positive vibration. And I wasn't sending a positive vibration anymore. What I sent was a self-destruct energy. And guess what? The book didn't go national because I needed to limit it because I wasn't ready at the time. And if you read Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love, and I know I've used it in several of my books, the quote about success: we're not frightened of failure. Failure is just, that's another one bites the dust. We just shrug our shoulders, kick off the dust, and we move forward. But then we start repeating the pattern again. We just get into another bad relationship, or, sometimes we get into more debt, or we might have a crappy job, or we're just doing the same old, same old, same old. So when we learn what our patterns are, and I know yesterday what I asked you to do, if obviously you wanted to do it, but I'm using this time while we've all got time to self-evaluate and self-reflect. So what I suggested yesterday was that you wrote a timeline about all of the things that have happened to you in your life, all the significant things, the good, the bad, the indifferent. And then it's good if we can look at the timeline and look at, maybe is there a theme of repeated patterns of behaviour, or a theme of trauma? Maybe we've had one car accident and then another car accident. Maybe we've had a crappy job and then another crappy job. When you start understanding that we do have what we call karmic cycles, we get into cycles. Many of you have heard the term karma. You can have good karma and bad karma. We talk about dharma and karma. You can go and do some research and look into any of this. But sorry about that. A FaceTime live. When we look at karmic cycles, if we can become aware of patterns, then we can move forward to start to break them. Because if we don't know that we have a problem, if I'm sat here on FaceTime and I'm scratching my nose and I'm scratching my hair and I start picking my nose and, doing that with my ears and things, then it's really, really not helpful. If we don't know we have a problem, it can become more of a problem. If we know we have a problem, then, it may well be very painful to admit it, but at least by admitting it, we can start to move forward, or at least that's the plan. So if you want to do a timeline, that can be one of the most revealing things that you actually take responsibility for. And we look at the timeline, and then we look at, is our story serving us? Am I just keep looping and looping and looping? Am I just doing the same old, same old, same old all the time? So when we start breaking karmic cycles, of course, everything is energy. So we create a vacuum, we create a space, we create a new space for the new to come in. Now, if we've only had a life of pain, then very often what can happen is that we will go back to pain because it's what's familiar to us. How many times have you had a favourite restaurant and you always go there because you know it's okay? Or you try the same pizza all the time, cheese and tomato, because you're frightened of maybe trying the seafood pizza or a pizza with a different topping on. How many times do you try, different recipes? Or do you go to a different beach? Or do you go to a different holiday resort? We get into patterns and we very rarely push ourselves, because it takes a lot of courage to create a change in our life. Some of us will say, well, it's always been like that, that's the tradition. And traditions have their place. I'm not going to say that traditions don't have their place. But when we really take the time to get to know ourselves, and through this lockdown, it is an amazing time to get to know ourselves more. So when we look at our habits, how many times have we honestly pushed ourselves to do something different? Do we always have to have a Sunday lunch? Do we always have to have fish and chips on a Friday? Now, some things serve us. I used to like having fish and chips on a Friday. But if we're always having, McDonald's or the same old cake, now one little change, because some of you, I can almost feel that you're going, oh no, I can't do that, it's too much. I always have muesli for my breakfast, or I always have scrambled eggs on toast, and I don't want to change, and that's okay. One tiny step towards change can produce miracles in your life. And I promise you that when you bring one tiny change into your life, it's like a domino effect. Everything is energy. So as you create change, then you create space. As you let go of one habit, you create the space for another good habit to come in. Now, some things serve as, my hairdresser Nat in the UK is certainly one of the best hairdressers that I could have come across. Unless I had to, I would not go to a different hairdresser's. My dentist is really good. Unless I had to, I wouldn't go to a different dentist. However, if something's not serving you, if it feels right, and this is where we change from when we say, what do you think? What do you feel? Does it feel right? The more you get to know what is serving you, and the more you get to know what's serving you, the more you will begin to understand more and more and more and more about yourself. So if you feel strong enough to create one change, maybe you go to the same park every day. Now, I know we're on kind of lockdown at the moment, but maybe go and walk a different way to the park. I've been coming to Switzerland, Geneva and the French side for nearly 8 years. And at the moment, I'm staying in a part of Geneva that previously I didn't know. And every day, I try and walk a different path. There are various bridges, various roads down to the lake from here if I choose to go to the lake. Sometimes I just go simply in the park. Sometimes I try and walk to one of the different parks. Sometimes I might take a walk by the river. But if I challenge myself to walk a different way, it makes me feel better, because I can't get lost. There's enough landmarks. There are mountains here. There's usually a sign to the lake. Worst case scenario, I just get my phone and get Google Maps out. So, if you begin to create positive change, then you will begin to change your life. And, Rome was not built in a day. I keep going back to this because it's true. I know many of you have converted your own houses. Many of you have decorated room. Well, it starts by cleaning off the old wallpaper, the old paint, sanding it down, and starting again. So sometimes it's really good to have, I know many of you are cleaning out the kitchen drawers at the moment, many of you are cleaning out the wardrobes. You have to get rid of the old before you can bring in the new. You have to get rid of old habits before you can create some new good ones. So it's entirely up to you how you choose to do it. But if you can find the courage, and if you do find change difficult, believe you me, I used to find change difficult. So many people have said, yeah, but you're fine. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't see me 20 years ago. You didn't see me before I was doing Tai Chi, before I started doing meditation. And I don't have a good day every day because that's just BS. Most days are good, but not every day because I'm real, or at least I think I am. Last time I checked, I was here. So this is all about you. The reason that I was asked to do the FaceTime was to help you guys. And I love doing them. I love the intuition and the meditation and listening to the guidance that I get from my guides. And obviously being a healer, I can send the positive healing to it. But it's all about you. It's what changes you want to bring in your life. If you want to bring a change in your life and think, right, okay, well, I brushed my teeth yesterday, I'm not doing it tomorrow. Okay, well, after a week, you're probably going to have really bad breath. And after whatever length of time, you might find that your teeth start to rot. And then, I don't know if the dentists are open at the moment or not, but it is all about you. So think about the habits that serve you. How many times do you, need to brush your teeth a day? Some people do it twice a day. Some people do it just once. Some people do it 3 times a day. How much makeup do you put on? What kind of products are in the makeup? How much, healthy food do you eat? And how much crap do you eat? How much salt? Is it healthy salt you put on your meals? Like Himalayan rock salt, things like that. I know a few of you have said you've not sleeping. I mentioned yesterday about a magnesium supplement. Now, sometimes we buy magnesium supplements and things, and then we forget to take them. And then we don't sleep. So it's like, right, I'm going to take it now. And then we start sleeping again, and then we forget, because it's all about habits. So the more you get to know your own habits, what is it that you do? Maybe you have a horse. Maybe you go horse riding. Maybe you're cleaning out the stables. Maybe you have a dog. Maybe you go walking with the dog every day. Maybe you're OCD. Maybe you clean the house 10 times a day, Think about how wisely you use your time. Think about how much time you do have where you procrastinate, because we all do it. I assure you, I do it too. 20 years ago when I started doing Tai Chi, it changed my life. And at the time, bringing up the children, it was kind of, can I really validate going out for an hour to do Tai Chi, to spend that money on me? Because in my eyes, I didn't exist. I was just a working mum, and I was just busy all the time. Was I worthy of making that hour for myself? And believe you me, it changed my life. Many of you know the story. But, for those of you at home now, maybe do some Tai Chi on a video, maybe do a yoga, maybe learn a musical instrument, maybe read the book or write a book that you always wanted to. Once you start looking into self-help and personal development, I hate the term self-help. It sounds like we're all like just numpties, But anyway, self-improvement, because we're all improvement, or hopefully we're all improving every single day. The more that we read books that are life kind of affirming, can make us feel better about ourselves, can help us to understand our habits, our limitations, will hold you back. False energy appearing real. It sucks. I can tell you any story about fear that has just stopped me from moving forward so much. I know many people spend time now on video games. The amount of times when I was seeing people professionally as a therapist, and the wife has said, he's on the game all the time, he's on the Xbox. If I had £1 every time somebody said that, I could just cry, because they're on the Xbox, they're playing the games. Obviously we can do things on the mobile phone now, And how much of your time is it really, really taking up? Is it serving you? Don't get me wrong, if you have the ability to limit it to 20 minutes a day, half an hour a day, I mean, some of these games can go on for hours and hours and hours. Is it really how you want to live your life? Do you get a sore neck? Do you get sore shoulders? There are far more implications. And the other thing is with that, of course, that when we start playing a lot of these games, we start with the adrenaline running through the blood. When you start with adrenaline running through your blood, you're hyper, you're kind of, you're on the bubble all the time. And then you want to sleep within half an hour. It doesn't work like that. So we have to become more aware of our habits, more aware of our sleeping habits. I do thoroughly understand that at the moment many people are not working because of the situation. Many of you might find that you go to bed later, and obviously if you go to bed later, you get up later in the morning. I've even noticed here in the apartment block, people are opening the shutters because the shutters are quite noisy as you open and close them. They're on a metal kind of roller. A few weeks ago I was being awakened at 6:30, which to me was okay because I'm quite used to 6:30 mornings. Now sometimes it's 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30. So obviously the neighbours in the apartment block are also getting up later. So, just be aware of your habits. Be aware. I know there's so many jokes going around of people, eating more carbohydrate foods. Because, if we're bored, it is something that we do in the West. We eat more. So maybe some of you are kind of entering into more meditations. Maybe some of you are entering more into really taking this as a time where you can develop yourself. Maybe most of you are really embracing the fact that you are so grateful for the gardens, for the food that you can eat, for friends at the end of the phone, and you're being aware of all the things that you're going to appreciate when you come out of this. If you choose to stay in your story, well, this happened to me and that happened to me, that's where you're going to stay. If you want to move forward, park the story. And that's one of the beauties of isolation in a way, because we are faced with ourselves. If you ring in your friends and you're whinging all the time, just ask yourself one question. Is that serving me? Is it serving you to whinge? Why don't you try and put that energy into something more positive? Well, I've enjoyed reading that book. I thought I'd try something different. I've been a ballerina for the day. I've been singing at the top of my voice. I've been listening to some jazz. I've just tried this new recipe. Do you want to share it? There's so many sharings. I hear so many people say to me, I've come off Facebook because it's all negative. Well, hang on a minute. I would never say that, because if you put negative out there, guess what you're going to get back? If you put positive out there, guess what you're going to get back? To one degree or another, of course, there's always fine lines, there's always grey areas. So if you're finding that you have people on your Facebook that are bringing negativity to you, just not with blame or guilt or shame or any of that nonsense, what are you putting out there? What are you emitting? Because your DNA is electromagnetic. What is it that you're putting out there that you need to learn from? Every day is a learning curve. So as I said before, if you've written the timeline down, just have a look for repeated patterns, broken relationships, rubbish jobs, travel that you've always wanted to do that maybe you've not done. Think about something you've always wanted to do and just sit quietly with it and just visualize yourself doing it. Very often it's just being able to connect A to B, to move from one stepping stone to another. Very often, if you're going to decorate a room, you usually have the end goal in place. You usually have already thought about what colour you would like to paint the room. Some of you may be aware of colour therapy. If you paint a room a deep blue kind of virgin on the purple colour, then what you'll find is that if that's in a bedroom, you'll go to sleep no problem, but waking up is going to be an entirely different ballgame. There are different colours that can stimulate creativity. If any of you have read or researched colour therapy, everything's on YouTube now, or get a book, download it on Kindle, order it through Amazon, whatever. But when we decide we're going to redecorate a room, we have usually got an idea in place. I have a very, very dear friend. She became a very dear friend in Bali, who designed many, many houses. And believe you me, the privilege of walking around the house that they designed together was phenomenal. This woman was so creative. She's just a walking amazing genius, The ideas for using space, making shelves under the stairs, making a wine rack under the stairs. Anything's possible. One of my friends had made an outdoor kind of gazebo recently. Sometimes we just need to push ourselves a little bit and make the challenge and just do it. I always remember when my son Matthew was working for a big joinery company in Preston. He loved doing joinery and he loved doing woodwork, but he soon realised that, if you want to learn more, then you also have to learn from an electrician. You have to learn plumbing, you have to learn plastering. It's good if you can learn roofing. And God bless him, what he noticed was that many of the English guys were not always willing teachers. So Matthew being Matthew, and I do honour what he did, he realised that a lot of Polish people were coming who had very, very good skills and a lot of patience teaching. So he learned Polish. He learned the language. And I was in so much admiration of him because he could have a conversation with them. And like he said, if you try and speak Polish to them, then they will give you the time because you've given them the time. So think about who you have ever given your time to. Think about who you have maybe taught a skill to, or someone who's taught a skill to you. Think about someone who is a favourite teacher at school. I used to love my English teacher. He was just amazing. He had the patience of Job, and he really, really encouraged me to do that. Maths was okay. I don't really like maths. But one of the teachers was a phenomenal guy and a very, very peaceful ambience about him. And even, some of the mathematics that I struggled with, he would be patient enough to sit down and re-explain to me. And then it's like, oh, okay, you get the light bulb moment. Now, we don't have to be in a role as a teacher, but in our own way, we're all teachers. I always used to say when I was teaching Reiki, don't think for a minute that I'm your teacher, because you're all teaching me. Each one of you listening now has something that you can teach me. Each one of you now has an experience that if you chose to, you could share it with me so that I can learn from it, because I don't have all the answers to everything. You all have skills that I don't have. And when we appreciate ourselves for the skills that we have, it's a phenomenal work in progress. And this is why united we stand. This is the difference. United we stand, divided we fall. But if we all start gossiping and bickering and belittling and criticising other people, it's not going to help us. And it's not going to help ourselves, because generally speaking, if we're belittling and criticising and judging somebody else, the only person we're really judging is ourselves, because everything is personal responsibility. And I always remember a few years ago, a friend of mine said, you know what, Mary, your problem is that you don't judge anybody. And I just thought, wow, that's a really heavy thing to say, because to me it was the biggest compliment. Mary, you don't judge anybody. And another friend of mine said, Mary, I'm so grateful you don't judge me, because I just know that, the guy had had a lot of past life deja vu, and he said, I know I was an absolute arse with you in a past life. And I said, yeah, but it's past. It's not now, is it? So all we have is the here and now. You know, if we have stories, then we can become locked in that story. We can start thinking, you know, the pain we had with a divorce, a relationship breakdown, losing our home, losing our business, whatever. Many of us have been through shock, stress, trauma. Many of us have had illnesses or car accidents that we've had to recover from in some way. But if we take it as a learning, if we be kind enough to ourselves and be patient enough with ourselves, where we can switch the phone off for an hour, switch the phone off for 2 or 3 hours, and just sit quietly with ourselves, sit quietly with a book. We don't need the TV on, we don't need the radio on. Just give ourselves permission to be quiet. Spend time reflecting, spend time in nature without the music blaring, and just get into the silence, because silence has a language all of its own. So what I'd like to do, I'm just going to ask you all, if it's okay, to just sit quietly for a moment and think about all the people in your life who have brought something to you. It may be pain, it may be something wonderful. Maybe you had to come out of a toxic relationship to find what you do want. How often do we find what we do want by finding what we don't want? There's nothing wrong with that. It's how we learn. We learn that we don't like certain foods. I absolutely hate tomato ketchup. I really can't stand the stuff. You know, and because I'm English, I'm from the West. Wherever I've travelled to in India, Bali, they would always put it on the plate, and it really makes me feel physically sick. And I would just remove it and then look at you. But you're from the West. You don't like tomato sauce? No, I don't. I really don't. We make assumptions about different people, different cultures. And if you split the word assumption or assume, it's to make an ass of you and me, you know? So we shouldn't make assumptions, but we should listen more clearly to ourselves and to other people. And of course, if we're judging, then we're not coming from a place that's non-biased. So the more we can get in the habit of being non-biased, then things can change. So if you'd like to, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, just put your hands on your heart and just take a moment to think about all the people that you've learned things from. You know, I learned morality from my parents. I learned self-discipline from my parents. I had to learn to wash up, to do the ironing, to learn to do the cooking. I learned to garden. And I may not have appreciated it as a child, because obviously as a child we often don't. And many of you out there are parents, and of course your children may or may not like learning to cook or learning to clean the room or cleaning the windows, washing the clothes, ironing the clothes. Most children don't even want to put the clothes in the washing basket. I remember so often the fights I used to have with Emily, because bless her cotton socks, she didn't want to learn to cook. And she turned around to me and said, "Mum, leave me alone, I will marry a chef." And that's what she did. You know? So we do need to learn things though. Eventually she did learn to cook. We need to learn to clean our teeth. We need to learn to tie shoelaces. We need to learn to wash ourselves. And at the moment, many of us are turning to gardening, because it would be ideal if we can actually go back to the land, go back to nature. So think of all those people who have brought beautiful teachings into your life. Just tune into that appreciation. Doesn't matter if they're in your life now, doesn't matter if they've gone, doesn't matter if they've passed away. We're all connected by the golden thread. Just feel that connection in your body. Where do you feel it? Is it in your throat? Maybe somebody taught you how to communicate more. Maybe somebody taught you how to sing. Maybe you had a speech therapist because you had a lisp or something like that. Maybe it's in the heart. Because maybe somebody taught you how to love by teaching you how not to love, or the way you didn't want to be loved, or what you assumed love is, but not the unconditional love which should be there. Maybe you feel it in your belly. Maybe somebody taught you how to cook. Maybe somebody used to make you feel sick. Maybe somebody used to make you eat something you didn't want to eat. Maybe it's in a leg or a knee. The knee can reflect flexibility. The knees and the legs are all about going forward. But whoever taught you things, the good or the bad, we only learn trust through mistrust. We only learn patience through being in a position where we are forced to be patient. The baby needs to be in the womb for 9 months. If it comes out any earlier than that, it may have problems with its lungs or its hearing or its eyes, or it may just die anyway. An acorn is not going to become an oak tree overnight. The caterpillar does not become the butterfly until it's ready. Life is inevitably ups and downs. But if we focus on happiness, whatever happiness is to each and every one of us individually, then surely we're going to get there. If you are on with a project, be it decorating or renovating your house or doing your garden or planting seeds, take time before you start to think of the finished product. If you're cooking a beautiful meal, visualize the smell and how it's going to make you feel when it's served on the table, and appreciate it. Even if you're cooking for yourself or you're cooking for 50 people, it makes no difference. Take time to think how you want the rest of this day to go. And just for a moment, forgive yourself for all the times when maybe you've procrastinated too much, when maybe you've not allowed yourself to receive abundance, or receive somebody's thanks, or receive a compliment. Forgive yourself for any misunderstandings you may have had with other people, and forgive the other person. And if you struggle with that, then keep trying. Commitment to cleaning our space, to cleaning our emotions, to understanding and to allowing ourselves to take the learnings can bring big, big changes to us. By taking personal responsibility for ourselves. So if you are blaming somebody else, if you are stuck in the blame game, just take a moment to ask yourself, is it serving you? Do you want to put it down? Do you get sick of hearing your own voice when you feel like a stuck record? Think for a moment of where you need to create space in your life. Now that we've all got time to do that, it's a perfect opportunity. Maybe some of you are used to meditating. Maybe some of you have never meditated. Maybe some of you are seeing beautiful animals or people and pictures of people you've long forgotten. We meet thousands of people in the process of our life, maybe even millions. Some will be more significant than others, of course. But the more you get to know yourself, so the more you will meet people who know themselves. And the more you meditate, I guarantee the more you'll get to know yourself if you stick with it with connection, commitment, and dedication. So you can stay in meditation with your eyes closed on your heart center if you wish. And I'm just going to read something to you which really touched me many, many years ago. A dear friend, Simon Kenyon, gave it to me, and it comes from a man called John Quigley who worked with many autistic, very severely damaged children many, many years ago. So if for any reason Simon or John you're listening today, I give great thanks for this because it's one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. It's called Flames in the Cave, and it is absolutely beautiful. I shall just read it for you. Flames in the cave, precious gifts. There was once a soul whose time had come to take human birth, and so it went into the great cavern in the infinite void where all such souls went. In the cavern were hundreds of thousands of souls, each manifesting as a small blue flame. When its time came, the soul stood up and said, "My time has come to take human incarnation, for I have work to do and many lessons to learn. In my lifetime I shall need family and loving friends to help me, to love me and to nurture me. Who will be my friends on earth?" A ripple flickered across the thousands of flames, and shortly a few stood forward and said, "We do not know you. We have not met you before, and we are strangers. But being kind and giving is a pleasant and easy task. We will be your friends and family on earth." The soul spoke again and said, "And on earth I shall need teachers, people to guide me, to correct me, and to discipline me. Who will be my teachers?" Again a ripple went around the assembled flames, and a group came forward and said, "We have known you in other lives, and we have grown to respect and to like you. We will take on the task of being your teachers in this life." And for a third time the soul spoke and said, "And on earth, if I am to learn the greatest of all, the lessons of humility, tolerance under provocation, and love to those who hate me, I shall need enemies. I shall need people to hate me, to abuse me, and to do violence to me. Who will do this for me? Who will be my enemies?" There was a very long pause in the cavern until at last a small group came forward and said, "We are your soul group. We have known and loved you over eons of time, and your growth and learning are as dear to us as our own. This is the most delicate and difficult of tasks, and if you are to be hurt and abused, it would be better done by loving friends. We will be your enemies on earth." And this is something that really touched me many, many, many years ago. Because learning trust through mistrust sucks. But on a soul-to-soul level, after much soul searching for me, I realise that the people that have hurt me the most in this lifetime, and equally I've done my fair share of hurting myself, they've been the ones that have been the very oldest souls, and they've been the ones that in many respects have loved me the most. So maybe I'll leave you with that thought for the day today. Because we all love in different ways. It doesn't always have to be chocolates, sweetness and life and champagne. But just ask yourself, where have you refused love in your life? Where can you allow more love in your life? Where can you allow yourself to become a better teacher, a better person? Who can you allow in your life to touch your life more in a beautiful way? How many teachings have you resisted? How many times have different people asked you to do different things? Many people asked me from the Tai Chi group to do Reiki, and I was stubborn, I was arrogant, I was ignorant at the time, and it was 12 months before I learned to do it. And in that 12 months, my whole life had crashed on the shore. I was struggling working in the civil service. I was really struggling with many things in my life. If I'd have done Reiki earlier, would it have made life better? Absolutely. But sometimes it is only in our own time. As I said, very often we have to find what we don't want to find what we do want. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm going to bid you farewell for the rest of the day. I hope you've enjoyed today's just morning thoughts with me. I may have to meet a friend in Geneva tomorrow, but hopefully I'll be back in time. So I usually do these at 11:11 a.m. UK time and 12:11 Geneva time. But I will let you know as soon as I can as to what I can do. It is lovely to have you on board. It's lovely to kind of connect with many of you. I do apologise for the phone calls that I was getting through Messenger before, which may or may not have caused the video to cut out for a few seconds. I'm really sorry about that. But I do wish you all the best for today. Please think about all the people in your life who have taught you something, even if it was painful, because everything is a learning. And we resist so often the things that we most need to learn, just as I resisted. And I've resisted many things throughout life. That's how we learn. But when we can learn to be gentle and forgiving with ourselves, then we can certainly learn to be gentle and forgiving with others. When we are obnoxious, self-critical, belittling of ourselves and so judgmental of ourselves, as I used to be, just ask yourself the question, is it serving you? How can you be kind to you just for one day? Just for one day. Just for one day. No gossiping, no blame game, no criticism, nothing negative. Just for one day. Just try it and see how far you get. Let me know. If there's any subject you want me to cover while I'm on here, I don't have all the answers, but I'll just do my best. I think all of you know that. So I bid you farewell. Have a wonderful day. May the lightness and the peace of I touch every moment of this day. Take care, everybody. Hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye.